Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Green Bay Rewind. It is so great to be here as always. Even better when you're coming off a victory, three in a row. I can get used to that. It's fantastic that we're putting together a win streak. You'll love to see it. So I don't forget this time. I'm gonna make sure I drop that link for the giveaways. If you're new here, there's a Google form. Fill that out. Please make sure you're using the name that is like either it's your Facebook profile or your YouTube, because if we announce the winner, that way I know in the comment section who it is and I know that you're here and able to claim the prize. If you win and you do not claim the prize by the end of the episode, you forfeit the prize. So even if you're not watching the full episode, just make sure you're checking in occasionally. So if you do win, that you can claim that prize. Let's start out like we always do. Let's see who's checking in and from where. So starting out, we have Chad, who is watching from Altoona, Iowa. Hello, Chad. Special shout out to Tiffany Tully celebrating our 8-year wedding anniversary today. Well, happy anniversary to the Tullys. Such amazing people. I'm so thankful I've gotten the opportunity to get to know them over the years. I'm very excited for them to come up for the Lions game so we can all get together. Hopefully still doing dinner at my house. Chad, I'm sure we'll talk about that though. So happy anniversary. Heather in Knoxville. Heather, hope your package got to you. I know I didn't give me any tracking, so I hope it got to you. Let's see here. Katie checking in from Sioux City, Iowa. How is the same question goes for Corey here, checking in from New Ulm. Good to see you, Corey. But between Katie and Corey and Chad, who are kind of in Minnesota Viking territory, how's the vibe down there now that they lost to the Lions? I'm sure they're still riding pretty high. We have Frankie, who's dead to me. Frankie, you're throwing around that term friend pretty loosely. No, just kidding, Frankie. I still consider you a friend, even though you're dead to me. Good to see you, Frankie, up in the UP. Reliance, Virginia. Kevin, thanks for checking in, hanging out. Yeah. Let's see. I see some other comments rolling in. Germantown, Jenny, so good to see you. I hope your daughter and son-in-law had a great time. Son-in-law's first game, so that was a great first game. I'm excited to talk on that one. Ron's checking in from Appleton. Ron, good to see you. Thanks for checking in. Lori in Meyer, Wisconsin. Is that right? Or is it Lori Meyer and then you're checking in from Wisconsin? Either way, good to see you. Brian from in Lax. Good to see you, Brian. Derek checking in from South Dakota. Derek, good to see you again. Appreciate you swinging by a second time. Ben's checking in from Bakersfield, California. Wow, we're getting a lot of different ones here. Appreciate you guys all swinging in. Tony from El Paso. I think I already clicked on that one. Steve from Florence. Ty from Central Wisconsin. Good to see you guys. Heather, I would assume it's going to get there soon if you haven't gotten it yet. It went media mail, so it's probably a little bit slower. So my apologies. Cincinnati, Ohio. Tom, good to see you, Tom. Appreciate you swinging by. Heather, if you don't get it in like another week, just reach out to me, please. Tony, I appreciate you swinging in all the time, and I suck at saying this one. Wyowega, I think I say that right, but I'm so bad at that. Matt, good to see you. I could drive by your house and wave. Matt's like right down the road from me, so good to see you, Matt. Yeah, let's get into this. We have a lot to talk about. What a week. Boy, talk about a roller coaster. As I'm sure many of you were on pins and needles that entire game, stress level just off the charts. Felt like every time something went right, something went wrong. And it was just a very stressful game start to finish. But the Packers ultimately end up advancing to 5-2 after defeating the Texans 24-22 off of Brandon McManus game-winning 45-yard field goal. Welcome to Green Bay, Brandon. What an introduction to Packers fans. I saw a lot of people that weren't even aware that we signed a new kicker. I saw a lot of people who were like, who's this 17 guy? Where's Braden Narvison? They were very concerned, especially at that final kicker or that final kick, because Braden Narvison was going to come out and kick. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I know I'm probably more in tune with what's going on at Lambeau Field and what's going on with the Packers. So I know not everyone is as closely watching that as maybe I am, but I thought that was kind of funny that people were very concerned that Braden was going to miss it when he's not even on the roster anymore. While the kick was impressive, right? You had to make it twice because they iced you the first time. I mean, you got that free kick, I guess. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it, but you got the free kick. You want to take that so you can kind of adjust your leg. What was equally as impressive is Dan Whelan scooping the snap off the ground and getting it right where it needed to be in time. I know it said he was practicing in the dorms. He's been practicing his holds, and he's just been practicing the holds a lot, especially as Brandon was coming in. So it's good to see, preparation comes into play in the game, and it ultimately was the game difference. If Dan doesn't get that, Daniel doesn't get that up, it's a different outcome. So thankful he did. Speaking of Daniel Whelan, I don't remember the last time the Packers had a weapon like Daniel Whelan at punter. If you're unfamiliar with Whelan, as I'm sure many of us are, so he is a punter. We talked about that. So he's originally from Ireland. He moved to California when he was 13. He had a brief stint with the Saints before getting cut before the final during the final roster cutdowns. And then he played for the XFL for a season. He did pretty well in the XFL, got nominated for some awards, and then they brought him in for punting competition for Pat O'Donnell in 2023. He ultimately won the competition and became the starter. So he's been starting for us now since last year. And boy, pretty impressive. Stats from Sunday had 5 punts for 284 yards. So it's 56.8 yards per punt. And he could just flip the field. There's so many times where it's a balance, right? You don't want to outkick your coverage, which you maybe kind of run into that a little bit. But man, he could really get the Packers out of a dangerous situation by just booting that thing. I saw Aaron Nagler post that he had the second best single game average in team history behind Roy McKay's 1945 game against the Chicago Cardinals, where he averaged 61.6 yards per punt. So think about that. Almost 80 years you're going back to find the best performance in franchise history. And Dan, set the second best in that game against the Texans. So what an asset. Very lucky to have him. Hopefully kickers figure it out. So then maybe we can start feeling good about our special teams unit as far as kicking and punting. Long snapper still a little bit of a concern, but I did see they cut our long snapper Matt Orzalik earlier this week. I'm sure it's just a formality, and I'm sure he'll be back, but I don't know if I saw that he signed back. Maybe someone else knows that off the top of their head. I've been pretty busy with work, so it's been a busy week. Just checking the comments here. All right, so let's talk about Jordan Love. I know Jordan's got a lot of good things going for him. A lot of people are focused on some bad things, but let's talk about it. He obviously had a very up and down day. He finished the day with 24 of 33 for 24 of 33 for 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, and of course those 2 interceptions. He ended on a high note by running that 2-minute drill to put the Packers in field goal position, which ultimately ended up being the game-winning field goal, helping the Packers secure their win. He's got a league high interceptions. He's tied right now. I've seen so many people focused on his interceptions. He's registered 9 straight games with 2+ touchdowns, and I posted about that. It's the NFL right now. It's the highest. I don't know. I'm spacing on it, but he's got the most consecutive games right now in active NFL with 9 at 2+ per game. And not all, a lot of the comments I'm getting on that post are, well, what about his 8 interceptions? He's got 8 interceptions. Oh, he's also leading the league in interceptions. He needs to stop turning it over. Turnovers are going to happen for a quarterback. Welcome to the NFL. He's not to say he shouldn't throw any more interceptions or he's got to stop throwing interceptions. That's going to happen. We've seen a lot of interceptions of his this year come off of deflections. Now, they weren't always the most beautiful passes, but if you're hitting the receiver's hands and it's deflecting out, going somewhere else, that happens. And defenses get paid to play too. We saw the one where the defense was in his face, forced a high ball, which went over Christian Watson's hand. Safety made a play on it. Welcome to the NFL. Defense gets paid too. And I'm not gonna say the deflections. If you take away the deflections, it'd be fine because he's gotten away with some interceptions that should have been interceptions, and that's just how the ball bounces. But what I do think is interesting is I saw the NFL MVP odds, and Patrick Mahomes right now is leading the NFL MVP odds. He has the best odds to win MVP. Patrick Mahomes this year has right now as many interceptions as Jordan Love. Jordan Love's tied with 8 interceptions with Patrick Mahomes. Jordan Love this season has 15 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Mahomes has 6 touchdowns. So Love almost has 3 times the amount of touchdowns that Mahomes has, and they have the same amount of interceptions. Jordan's played 2 games or missed 2 games due to injuries. I don't know if the Chiefs had a bye week. They very well could. I don't know how many games Mahomes has played in comparison. Obviously, Mahomes is going to have more leeway, right? He's won 3 Super Bowls, phenomenal quarterback. He's won MVPs. He could retire today and be in the Hall of Fame. So he's going to get more leeway. But I do think it's interesting that fans, and a lot of them probably are maybe around the NFC North, maybe not necessarily Packers fans, but there's a lot of Packers fans that are so hung up on Jordan's interceptions. Yes, you want to dial them back. I understand that for sure. However, I don't think you want Jordan to go into a game scared. Even if he makes mistakes, I don't think you want him to scale it back too much. I think that's part of what makes Jordan a great quarterback. He has a very short-term memory. He can put a ball in a window. We saw that in the touchdown to Tucker Kraft. He put that ball exactly where it needed to be, ended up right through the D-back's hands, and put it right in Tucker Kraft's basket. Incredible play by Tucker, of course. Incredible throw by Jordan. And I think if you put that pressure to be like, scale it back, scale it back, scale it back, I think you're going to kind of turn that into this like robotic quarterback who starts overthinking it. I would almost rather a quarterback that's like, hey, I'm going to throw some interceptions, but I'm also not going to be scared about making mistakes. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to throw touchdowns as well and keep us competitive. Now, you obviously need a defense to make that work, and the Packers had that so far have had that this year, which makes it a little bit easier. When you make mistakes, that defense can bail you out a little bit more. Kind of the recipe we saw with Favre early in his career. He threw a lot of interceptions, but he also had a defense that helped bail him out, and it made it a little bit easier. Now, I've looked at Favre's early seasons or early career stats, and for how different the throwing game was then, I mean, Favre threw a lot of interceptions. So as long as Jordan keeps on pace of just throwing multiple touchdowns a game, we're going to be fine. I think things will tighten up as the season goes. He's still going to throw interceptions. He's going to throw interceptions where you're like, ooh, he probably shouldn't have thrown that one. But he's also going to throw touchdowns that, blow your mind on how he threw that. And it's kind of an odd year this year with interceptions. We talked about Mahomes having 8. Aaron Rodgers has 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's very unlike Rodgers. Kirk Cousins has 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Brock Purdy has 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. All that list of guys, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and Brock, I don't know that I take any of those over Jordan Love. I love Love's arm talent, and I think he brings so much to this offense, and I love that short-term memory he has. And if he makes a bad play, whatever, Romeo's down there somewhere, we're going to make a good one. And what also is kind of odd here this year, so historically, Josh Allen of the Bills has thrown a lot of interceptions. Historically, he's been the guy that throws touchdowns, and he throws high-risk touchdowns, super big gunslinger, and he throws interceptions to go with it. This year, he's thrown 12 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So it's kind of an odd year across the board in the NFL. Um, I just I don't know. It's one of those. So I do wonder what will it take for Jordan, or excuse me, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I wanted to say this before I kind of go to the next step here. Today I was browsing Reddit after I got done with work, just kind of looking to see if I missed anything on the day. And I saw a great post that feels so accurate. And the way this was worded was beautiful. And I was like, I gotta share this. So the Reddit user Kerm Rocks 98 said, Favre spoiled us with toughness and made any missed games by Rodgers feel like the end of the world. Rodgers spoiled us with ball security and has made any interception Love throws feel like the end of the world, which I think that's perfectly worded. Um, a lot of the big reasons fans are so focused on interceptions is because Rodgers was so careful with the ball. He protected the ball. He held on to the ball rather than throwing it over the middle, or you throw it away rather than taking a chance. And I get you don't want either. You don't want to be on one side of that spectrum or the other. I think you want to kind of balance right in the middle. I do think Jordan feels like it's a good balance in that middle. But I do wonder what it's going to take, right? We do see a loud minority of Packer fans that hate on Love as a quarterback. And I don't know if that's like because they grew up with Rodgers, and we saw that with Rodgers when he took over for Favre. There's some fans that just always hate Rodgers no matter what. Rodgers could have won like 4 Super Bowls, and I think there's still going to be fans that just hate on him. Different quarterbacks, different personalities, different styles. Um, and I do wonder what it's going to take for that to happen with Love. Or is it going to take a Super Bowl win for fans to like truly be won over on Love? And not all fans. I feel like a lot of fans are won over on Love. But there's just so many people that every time Love has a relatively poor game, I see the same people just come out of the woodwork and start bashing Love. And they start bashing the contract. And it's like, what do you want? That's the NFL now. Quarterbacks get this money. Had we not paid Love this year and he's putting on the performance he's doing right now, he's going to get more money because that market's reset. It is what it is. Welcome to the NFL. Gone are the days where quarterbacks are making $20 million a year. It just isn't that. That's not the world we live in anymore. So many quarterbacks have gotten such high amount of money. Deshaun Watson getting a fully guaranteed contract, terrible contract, but Kirk Cousins getting fully guaranteed contracts. Rodgers getting like a large chunk of fully guaranteed contracts. That's just the world we live in now. Quarterbacks are a hot commodity. You see teams that don't have it and how much they're struggling. So if we didn't pay Love, someone's going to pay him. And I think the Packers said, hey, we've invested this into this guy. As far as draft picks, we got rid of Aaron Rodgers. This is our guy. He's proved to be what we thought arm talent wise. Now, are there mistakes to clean up? Sure. But he's worth that money to us. And unless there's another NFL general manager that wants to slide in my comments and make an argument otherwise, I don't think you'll find one. I think most general managers in the NFL would be happy to have Jordan Love on their team. I don't know, it's just my opinion. So I do wonder what it's going to take. It is what it is, I guess, but it's just always interesting. Kind of the fun stat of the week that I saw. Love is the 4th quarterback in NFL history, 25 or under, to have 2+ touchdown games, or for 2+ touchdowns in a game for 9 consecutive games in NFL history. So the other 3, pretty good list to be a part of: Dan Marino, Brett Favre, and Patrick Mahomes. So all 3 are going to be Hall of Famers. I wouldn't put Jordan Love in Canton yet by any means, but pretty good company to be a part of. 9+ games. It's 11 if you're counting playoffs, but 9+ games of having 2+ touchdowns is a pretty good feat. Like I said, it's the longest in active NFL going on right now. So this past weekend, we saw, him throw a touchdown to Josh Jacobs. We saw that one to Tucker Kraft that we mentioned, and we saw one to Dontavian Wicks. That one to Josh Jacobs is his first receiving touchdown in his career. I know Tully and I have been talking about that. I know we've talked about it in past episodes. So, happy to see him finally get one. It was his 80th game in the NFL, before he finally got a receiving touchdown. And the thing is, he said he's not even going to keep the ball because it was Jordan Love's 50th passing touchdown. So rather than keeping it, he wants to give it to Jordan since it was his 50th. We'll see. I could see Jordan saying, "Nope, you keep it. It's fine." But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But very, very thoughtless of or thoughtful of Josh Jacobs to offer that up to Jordan instead of keeping it for himself. As we're looking at the defense, I think that's the big thing to talk about from this last week. Defense balled out. They allowed 16 of Houston's 22 points came off of turnovers. Most of those turnovers were already in the red zone. So you had that first interception that they returned back to the red zone. You had the Love's other interception that was, I don't know if it was in the red zone, but it was pretty close. And then you had the not muffed kick. It bounced off of Corey Ballantyne. Really to only allow an additional 6 points throughout the entire game, taking away the turnover points, is so impressive. It just blows my mind. You saw the Packers only blitz on 17% of Stroud's dropbacks, but got pressure on half of them. I know Jeff Hafley got a game ball, and it was well deserved. I cannot express how good of a game plan he came in. We've seen Rashawn Gary get so much flack for not being able to generate pressures because they always put him in the same spot. He's getting chipped, he's getting double teamed, and they're really taking him out of a game because of that. Not this week. Jeff put together a game plan that had Rashawn moving all over the place. You saw him rush the edge, you saw him rush the middle, you saw him just moving around, and it showed. He was wreaking havoc in that backfield. 7 pressures on Stroud. He was in Stroud's face all day long, hurrying him up, making him run out. The game plan Hafley put together was unbelievable. Defense registered 4 sacks. And more impressively, they had held Stroud to a mind-blowing 86 yards in the entire game on 21 attempts and 0 touchdowns. So we talk about Love and throwing interceptions, right? So I'd be really curious to hear the perspective of some of these fans that harp on Love and his interceptions. Would they rather have a player like CJ, which CJ is an incredible quarterback, phenomenal quarterback, but CJ, rather than trying to make plays and risk anything, anytime something kind of broke down, he just threw it away. Threw it away. Or he would scramble for a couple yards. And I feel like Jordan he's like, hey, man, I trust Romeo. There's a few really contested catches that Romeo made. So I'm curious on their perspective. Would you rather have a quarterback like Stroud, Stroud's a phenomenal quarterback? Any franchise, I think, would be very happy to have CJ on their team, who maybe was a little bit more conservative with the ball than Love, but he only put up 86 yards during the game, no touchdowns, was pretty ineffective as a quarterback against Hafley's defense. And maybe a lot of that's on Hafley. I don't know. Maybe that's a lot on the scheme, but Texans have an incredible defense as well. And yes, they made Jordan pay on some passes, but Jordan made them pay just as much. So talking about Hafley's defense over the last 5 games collectively, the defense has allowed 22 points. 7 versus the Vikings, 3 in the second half. Excuse me. I don't know if I said it in the second half. Against the Titans, 7 against the Titans, 3 against the Vikings, 6 against the Rams, 3 against the Cardinals, and 3 against the Texans. If you can keep that up in those halftime adjustments, I think this team could really win every single game. Now, we have some tough opponents coming up. We're going to play Minnesota again. We have Detroit twice. You have some tough opponents coming up where to limit all of those opponents to under 1 score in a second half seems very unlikely. But man, beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. When big parts of those defense, sorry, I got something in my eye. Big parts of those defense are players that we've acquired. We talk about the linebacker room and the safety room that the Packers have now. compared to previous years. I feel like linebacker and safety since Nick Collins went down in 2011, since maybe since my boy Des Bish, since he went down in 2012. Um, you know, uh, I feel like linebacker room and safety room has just been weak. We've had some good players coming in and out, but they don't last. They don't make the impression that you'd like them to make. This linebacker and safety team or squad, the depth on these two, is just mind blowing to me. You had let's take a look at linebackers. You have Quay Walker, who left the game early with a concussion. Isaiah McDuffie, who's been phenomenal at making tackles. He doesn't miss those open field tackles. Really good with stopping the run. Edgerrin Cooper, who should be on every single snap, if you ask me. That dude is just a ball player. He makes plays. He can just I don't know. He just has that IQ and he just shuts off his brain and goes. Eric Wilson, who played every single snap, or no, excuse me, that was Evan Williams. Eric Wilson, though, I will say, I saw some fans that are like, when did we get this guy? He was on the team last year. He made that impressive fumble recovery in the playoff game against San Francisco, if you remember that, where Keyshawn fumbled. But he had himself a game on Sunday. He produced 2 sacks, a couple big tackles for losses, and a couple big pass breakups leading to 4th downs. That's a great problem to have when you have 4 linebackers who should all be fighting for playing time. It is a little interesting that at times I feel like Quay is probably the odd man out of that group, considering he was a first-round pick. But I still think there's a lot of promise for Quay. Very athletic linebacker. I think he's just got to kind of trust himself a bit more. And I trust that Jeff's going to get him in that spot. Talk about the safety room. Obviously, the signing of Xavier McKinney's been huge. If you didn't see, I was a little cheeky, and I sent the New York Giants general manager Joe Shane a thank you card with a $10 Quick Trip gift card for allowing Xavier McKinney to go to free agency. Curious if he's going to receive that or what's going to happen with that, but I did actually send him a thank you card. Some people thought I was just doing it as a bit. Nope, I sent it. I'm curious if he's going to get it. But Javon Bullard, incredible pick for this team. He's a very physical safety, has no issues tackling at the line of scrimmage. We saw him hit, who was it? The Eagles receiver. I don't know why I'm spacing on his name that they got from the Titans. We saw him hit him early in week 1, ended up injuring him just by hitting him. So he's a big safety he's gonna lay the wood. And then Evan Williams, who rightfully so played every single snap on Sunday. Dude has been a steal for a 4th round pick. Ultimately made the play that was potentially the difference between winning or losing that game in stopping that 2-point conversion. Now I know that was before halftime, so there's a lot of ball game left, but that ultimately ended up being the difference maker. Is those 2 points he took off the board. So unbelievable job. I can't say enough of what Hafley's done, and with the weapons that we've acquired. Xavier's completely taken the top off the defense, or top off the offense. You just don't see quarterbacks trusting throwing deep that much when he's back there. Stroud almost refused to throw it deep against the Packers, and the teams are respecting that secondary, which is great. Kevin brought up a good point. So I'm trying to go through and trying to check my notes and check in on comments, but Kevin brought up a good point. The D did take a big hit on the run game after Quay got hurt. He definitely does bring that to the table. Mixon did start get going after he got hurt. But I think a lot of that too is maybe game planning at halftime. Hafley kind of did his adjustments because it really felt like Mixon was a little bit more stuffed up in the second half. So there's a lot of season left, but man, that's a lot of promise on the defense. Now, we talk about concerns every game. There's so many positives in that game. And I'm so those are the fun ones, I think, that really make you happy to be a football fan. There's so many games where you're like, man, why did I choose to be a sports fan? Why couldn't I do something that was like less detrimental to my health as far as stress levels? But it's those games like that keep you coming back for more, because of the fact that it is excuse me, keep you coming back for more because of the fact that it is such a high when those games are won. Um, and I'm sure I shaved like 3 years off my life at least, but completely worth it. Those will be bad years anyway, right? I don't need to be living in a nursing home. I'd rather see the Packers win. It's fine. But if I do have concerns of the game, my biggest concern is the running game or the running defense. Still, I know we saw Quay go out, which impacted that, but even still, it's the run defense has been kind of at best at times this year. We allowed Mixon to slice up the defense, averaging 4.6 yards a carry, 115 yards on the game, and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Wyatt needs to return sooner rather than later. I think him missing is a huge part to the run game and the pressure that he could bring in the middle. But for us to be able to generate the pressures we did without him, hopefully we can get him back, especially before Detroit. That way we can kind of put some pause on the run game that we're seeing. And we talked about this already, but turnovers, it's not too often that you're going to win a game where you're -3 in turnover differential. The defense really made that possible in this game by shutting down the Texans offense completely. But you won't win those games most of the time. So Packers need to do a better job of just taking care of the ball. And I sound like I'm kind of contradicting myself. And Matt's talked about it too. If you protect Jordan, I think he's going to make better reads. He's not going to just throw balls maybe when he shouldn't. That's kind of like his Achilles heel right now, is when he does get pressured, he'll throw the ball and it's not always a full release, or he's not able to step into it the same, and maybe the ball sails a little bit. So it is tough. You saw Nixon make kind of an uncharacteristic mistake on returns. I still think he should be the returner for all punts. Uncharacteristic mistake. I mean, you saw Jaden Reed make a mistake on a punt return as well. It just didn't cost the Packers a possession. So really, those are the two big concerns that I have. We're still seeing some penalties, but you're going to see penalties every game. You're never going to have a game that's without any penalties. And I felt like the Packers did a relatively good job. At least it doesn't stand out to me of doing an excessively bad job. I also didn't look at the totals or anything like that. So that's kind of the synopsis here. How are you guys feeling about it? Any questions that you guys have as we're kind of heading into the next segment here of answering some questions? Kirby, appreciate you swinging by. Yeah, Dakota's my dude. I appreciate you coming by. Dakota and I go way back, all the way to the skate park days. Man, yeah, appreciate it. Sway Coda, if you're here, appreciate you. Spreading the word and getting people in here watching. I appreciate that. So if you do have some questions, let's drop them. Let's get into some burning hot questions. So before getting into the questions, I just want to say thank you so much to Legend Larry's for sponsoring the show. All season long, we've talked about this during Badger games, during Packer games. You can get a dozen wings when you dine in for only $10, which is a steal. I need to get in there, especially during a Badgers game. I like the Badgers. I cheer for the Badgers, but I don't follow it like I do Packers football. So I can definitely go in and indulge in some $10 wings and not have the stress of like a Packers game that hinders my appetite. So if you're in the area in one of their locations, go take advantage of that deal, because it is a great deal. So let's talk about the game coming up. Derek's already coming in hot with a great question. Derek, which appreciate you coming back again. Do I believe in Rich as a special teams coach? Have we gotten any better? Whew, I better take a drink of this one just to mull this over a little bit. It's tough. Oh man, that's so tough, because I feel like there are so many things, and I don't like to be like an armchair coach or anything like that, but I just feel like there's so many things that don't make sense to me. I don't understand. I still don't understand why Jaden Reed's back there returning punts. I feel like he's so valuable in this offense, which I believe was your question last week, Derek. like about Jaden Reed returning punts, and should he? He's just too valuable. I don't understand it. You've paid Nixon money for this. I also get frustrated that we don't see the return on the investment of Rich. And I hate being overly critical about coaches because Rich is a really great guy. He provides a lot of leadership to the team. He's the assistant head coach. A lot of guys respect him. But I don't think we're getting the return on investment for special teams as I would like to see. Um, how much is that of that is on his shoulders? It's hard to say, right? You can coach guys all you want till you're blue in the face, but if they go out on there in game day and they're not making the plays that you're coaching them to do, your options are either to take them off the field, but if you can't replace them with someone better, you're kind of doing a disservice to your team. So it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I don't know. I'm not there every day seeing what Rich is doing, but I do know he's getting heat because of the fact that he's paid a lot of money. I think he's the highest paid special teams coach in the NFL. So you'd like to see getting a little bit more off of that investment. So um yeah, great question though. I appreciate that, Derek. You're always coming in here with some great questions. Um let's see here. Steve, great question. Should the Packers buy before the trade deadline? I think it depends the price. I don't want to I don't want to see, and before I get too crazy in these questions, I'm going to come back to that. I got to make sure I put that in. But here's that form again. We're going to be drawing a giveaway winner after this segment. So make sure you're checking out that form. If you have not done so already, if you've already entered your name, if you've already filled it out, don't do it a second time. Just if you're just now tuning in, make sure you check that out. Uh, but yeah, I think it just depends the price of the buy, right? Like I don't want the Packers to overpay on something, um, especially if you're maybe not going to get the return because maybe teams are just, I don't know. It just depends what you can get. Now, if you can get like Max Crosby for like a Devontae Adams type of trade, I would probably give that up. I think what he would give for that pass rush would be incredible. I don't know if he'd want to come to Green Bay. I don't know if Green Bay is like the place for him. Obviously, Rich Bagassa's here. Bagassa. I don't remember how to say his last name, but Rich is here, which he's familiar with. He probably has a lot of appreciation and respect for Rich. So, but I don't want to see the Packers give up like a first round pick and have to pay all this money for a player that maybe we're just not going to get the same return on. I don't think the Packers would do that because generally teams that are kind of desperate do that. And I don't feel like the Packers are in that desperate spot. Kirby there. Yeah, Kirby there. I should have saw your question, but Basashia, at what point is he on the hot seat? That's a good question. I am not a good gauge on that at all, but I don't know because the team is like they hold him in pretty high regard. But I do think at a certain point you need to ask yourself, we're paying him a lot of money for a special teams coach, and if we're not getting the return on it, what are we paying for? Let's see, Chad. Chad, you did text me that you're trying to figure out how to shorten this, so let's see if you were able to. Is the current Packers roster what it is today if the Packers advance from one or both of the NFC Championship games or won a Super Bowl? Let me read that again. Is the current Packers roster what it is today if the Packers had advanced from one or both of the NFC Championship games or won a Super Bowl? I assume you mean back in like 2020, 2019, 2020, and then 2021 getting booted in the divisional round. That's interesting because you wonder. I assume that's what you mean, Chad. If not, just message in below for me to clarify. I wonder, like, if Rodgers, let's say Rodgers won the Super Bowl in 2020, we ended up going back to back 2021. Does the team move on him after 2022? I don't know. It's an interesting hypothetical. Would they behave that way? I don't know. Obviously it wouldn't be the same team we see now if they win Super Bowls. Coaching staffs probably be different. Free agents are always more expensive after a Super Bowl win. Your players are going to get paid. We saw that after the 2010 championship. Cullen Jenkins got a lot of money, which I think is still probably Ted Thompson's like worst move he made was not keeping Colin Jenkins in the pass rush that he brought to that team. But yeah, I obviously it would be a different team. So I'm thankful it is what it is, but it is interesting to like think about, would that Super Bowl or maybe back-to-back Super Bowls, would they have moved Rodgers like they did, or what would have happened? Um Bailey, good to see you. Hope you and Corey are doing well. Um I should probably read the question. I believe more and more the theories I've seen on Reddit that a lot of our kicking problems are with our long snapper. Thoughts on that? So I was thinking that, right? I thought, okay, well, Carlson's having some issues, and then Braden's having issues. We saw Greg Joseph have issues in preseason. It's got to be a snap. It's got to be a holder. It's got to be something. And then I heard Braden was struggling kicking off of not even a snap with one of the ball holders. I saw he was struggling kicking with that. And people have told me that as well. So I don't know. I mean, long snap's not going to help you if you're skipping it on the ground. So that's probably part of it, right? You probably get some hesitation in your head. You're maybe slowing down your swing or something as you're kind of anticipating something going wrong. But I do think that I think Braden maybe just got a case of the yips at the worst time possible for him. Carlson, we saw him boom a 55-yarder, but then he shanked an extra point. So it's kind of what Carlson did while he was in Green Bay. He could make deeper kicks and then shank extra points all day long. Sorry, I think I'm getting a little head cold from my son. So shout out to my son, Mason. Let's see here. Kevin, man, we got a lot of questions. I'm sorry. Kevin said, would you rather see a trade pickup be a cornerback or defensive end? At what cost in players/picks? I feel like I'm feeling better about where we're at in defensive backs, and I'd rather get like a good pass rush if we could. I think you can never have enough good pass rush. Like if we could acquire I don't know what Myles Garrett's contract is, and he'd probably be very expensive from assets that you're giving up. But if you could acquire a Myles Garrett, which there's no way, I don't think the Browns would let him go because he did just win Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he stole it from TJ Watt, but I don't think they'd let him go. But if you could get him or a Max Crosby, watching Max Crosby is just so impressive. The motor is always running on Max Crosby, and the trash talk he brings and the way he can like really frustrate a quarterback. I would love to see Max Crosby in Green Bay. Like I said, I wouldn't be willing to give up I wouldn't be willing to give up any significant picks or anything like that. I just don't want to I don't know. I don't want to sell away our future just for like a now perspective. And I know that's a tough balance, but if we would have done that in 2020 or 2021, look how different this team would be now. And maybe that's what Chad was alluding to earlier. There's you just don't want to sell away tomorrow because you never know what you're going to get. Ben, did you figure out the form? I posted it. It's in the comments here. I'll post it again. So if you have not, we're going to be drawing a winner here shortly. I do got to probably move on here soon. Maybe one or two more questions. Let's see. Ooh, Dakota says, pretty sure I missed this talk, but do you think Jair's walking the talk or just talking? Not sure how I'm feeling about the chirping lately. Good question, Dakota. Yeah, I mean, Jair he chirps, man. Going all the way back to college, he loves getting in people's heads. That's kind of his job, right? He gets in people's heads. You saw him, what was it, against the Cardinals when Evan Williams made the forced fumble. Jair wasn't even in on the play. He didn't recover it. He didn't do anything, but he went over and talked smack. And I think that's just his way to get in people's heads. I know a lot of people do not like that about him because they feel like that he shouldn't be doing that he should be more focused on his play. But hey, that's a sign of a good good cornerback, right? One that's going to just chirp and trash talk and be so confident. And even if they do, get a pass caught on them, that they're going to still chirp and move on to the next play. So let's do one more question, and then we're going to be drawing a winner here. I'm kind of running a little bit behind. So Ohana Packers edition. Joe, good to see you. Joe runs a good website, good page, good person to check out here. Did I make it over to see Jerry Kramer at the alumni signing? I swung by. I didn't stand in line. I had my little man. My wife was out to brunch with some friends and hanging out with some friends. So my son Mason and I were just kind of running around Lambeau Field. We went over to the Titletown to see the pumpkin stuff. And we just kind of walked around. So I went in there. I saw the line, but I was just kind of walking around. It's a little bit tough with a 1-year-old. He doesn't have the patience to sit there and wait. So we always got to keep it moving. But let's draw a winner here. So let's flip this around. I need to get a video so I can kind of transition a little bit smoother to these giveaways. Huge thank you to Nicolay Law. Of course, Nicolay Law. I'm so thankful to be working with them. They've been absolutely phenomenal, and these giveaways would not be possible without Nicolay Law. Each week now we have the possibility of potentially doing three giveaways. Today we are only doing one, but the other two scenarios, one is if the Packers lose, because even when the Packers lose, bad things happen in our lives. Nicolay wants to make it better. So if you are injured, get Nicolay, of course. But the other is we're going to draw a scenario that if it happens Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that could potentially trigger another giveaway. So today we only have one giveaway, but that's okay. One's better than nothing. So let's see. I hope you guys have entered in. I'm gonna do my thing now here, where I make sure I don't dox anyone with giving out their email addresses or anything like that. So give me 1 second. How's everyone's week been going? I've had a pretty busy week with work, and that's been great. Anytime I can stay busy at work is nice. But yeah, we went to for work. We went to a new brewery, newish brewery in town, and that was pretty interesting. I hadn't been there before. Super busy there. I do want to get going there again. It looks like they got some good wood-fired pizzas that I want to try, but every time I've tried going there, it's so dang busy that I can't even get in. You got to park down the road. So let's see here. I do got to clean up. All right. I think we got it. Let's get this screen share. Hope everyone can see that. I think we got 21 entries, 22 entries, I think it says. So good luck to everyone. I'm going to be shipping these out along with Joe's that he won last week. I'm going to be shipping it out this week. So good luck. Here we go. And then if you are here, make sure you claim the prize or claim that you're here. Joe, the name of that brewery is Cocoon Brewery. Ooh, Ben Gruber. Ben, if you are here, make sure you check in. I've seen you commenting here throughout it. Make sure you check in, and please give me a number 1 through 40, up or down. So 1 through 40, up or down. Congratulations. Sorry, I don't always see questions. I get a lot of them in. Sorry, my bad, guy. My bad. Yeah. So as we're waiting on Ben, you have also great name, fellow Ben. As we're waiting for Ben to let us know, Jordan, that is not true. I see the YouTube feed. I am just waiting for the Vikings game at Minnesota so I can tell our story of our game together, Jordan, every week. All right, Ben, I see you there. Give me a number 1 through 40, up or down, please. 1 through 40, up or down. 10 on up or down. Maybe I don't need it. No, I am going to need it. Ben, up or down, up or down. Yeah, I know it's you, Mark. I was 90% confident. I wasn't 100% confident. 90% confident. I didn't know you were not on Facebook anymore. All right, Ben, I'm going to give you like another 30 seconds to say up or down. Otherwise, I'm going to make that decision for you. That way we can draw this and start talking about the Jaguars. Down. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And the reason I do that, to explain, if you're new here, I have at the start of this season, I had 40 envelopes. 40? Yeah, 40 envelopes. And if a number's been drawn before, up to the next one or down to the lower one. So you did down, which means you got number 9 ultimately. Let's see what you won, Ben. So Ben, you won Don Mikowski 8x10. That's a fun one. So I'll shoot you an email. I got your email in the Excel spreadsheet or in that Google form. I'll shoot you an email to get your address, and I'll get that out this week for you as well as Joe's. And then Heather, sorry for your delay on yours, but you should be getting that soon. So congratulations, fellow Ben. Nice job. Appreciate you streaming or checking in on the stream. So let's start talking about also, before I transition, thanks to Nicolay Law. I'm very grateful for them. I'm so happy that they're here sponsoring. They're great to work with. So none of this would be possible without them. So shout out to Nicolay Law. Let's talk about the Jaguars. I'm not going to spend as much time maybe as I normally do because I'm kind of running a little bit behind, and I want to make sure I can go to bed and get some sleep before my son wakes up. He's been sleeping horribly. He was up like 5 times last night. Not a fun time. So both teams kind of on a very opposite direction here right now. You have the 5-2 Packers going against the 2-5 2-5 Jaguars. Sunday, 12 o'clock in Jacksonville. Mark, I was curious, since you're in here, are you going to the game? I know you went to the one in Jacksonville. Was that 2016? Boy, that was a lifetime ago. I think it was a home opener in Jacksonville years and years ago. No, it couldn't have been 16. Whatever. Not important. I'm curious if you're going to that one. But the Jaguars are coming off a sizable win against the Patriots, which the Patriots are pretty rocky this year. They're 1-6, but they came off a 32-16 win. Jacksonville's other win this season came against the Colts in overtime, a 37-34 overtime win. This will be the 8th game between these two franchises, which is so low compared to a lot of the other ones we see. But this team is a relatively newer franchise in the NFL world, with their first season being in 1995. The Packers are 5-2 against them historically, with the last game taking place in 2020, where the Packers won 24-20. So let's just run down, how are these two teams kind of shaping up and stacking up against each other? So we have the Jacksonville's total yards allowed. They're 17th in the league. Passing yards on average, 19th in the league. Rushing yards on average, 12th. And then average points per game, 22nd. They've allowed 17 sacks on the year, which is pretty middle of the road. And they're 17th down on the list. Technically tied for 8 because there's a lot of ties and sacks. Packers on the other side, their offensive yards per game, they're 6th. The passing yards in the game, on average, 9th. Rushing yards, they're 5th. So they're kind of, earlier they were 2nd or 1st in rushing yards, and now they're kind of scaling it back since Love has been back and they've been throwing more. And then average points per game, they're 7th in the NFL with 26.6. They've allowed 11 sacks on the year, which is tied for 3rd. I don't think, is that right? I think it might be less than that. I might be there might be someone stat correcting me there. 11 doesn't feel right, but I could be wrong. It could be 11 there. Defensively, Jacksonville's defense is struggling. Total yards that they're allowing per game towards the back of the NFL, 28th. Passing yards allowed, they are really bad. They have like the second worst, if not the worst, passing yards allowed. And then rushing yards allowed, 102.6 yards per game. Points allowed, they are 30th in the NFL with 27.7. They produced 16 sacks on the year, which is kind of middle of the road once again for defense. Packers defensively, they're kind of trending better. 15th for total yards allowed. Passing yards, 18th. Rushing yards, 13th. Points allowed, 10th in the NFL. So they've also produced 20 sacks on the year. Jacksonville does not bring a lot of blitzes. They're the lowest percentage of blitzes in the NFL, which is very positive for the Packers, because if Jordan Love's not pressured, we saw that against the Cardinals where he was just sitting back there picking apart the Cardinals. And if they're not bringing a blitz and they're not able to get home without a blitz, it could make for a really long day against this defense that struggles against the pass already. So this is one, by all measures, the Packers should win, but there's that age-old saying that's any given Sunday, right? Let's talk about turnover differentials. Packers are no longer number one. They were number one for a long while, but after their -3 performance on Sunday, they are now tied for third with a differential of +6. They've had 17 takeaways, which is number one in the NFL. 9 interceptions, 8 fumbles, but they've given it away 11 times, 8 interceptions, 3 fumbles. Jacksonville, on the other hand, they have a -4 differential. They've had 3 takeaways on the year, one of which being an interception. They've had 7 giveaways this year, 3 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So what's my game plan here? If I'm Green Bay, what am I doing here? I think I'm letting Jordan Love feast. I know the last couple of weeks I've been saying be heavy on the run. Obviously, you don't want to shy away from that too much. You want to stay balanced, but let this offense get cooking. Let Jordan get into a rhythm, especially if they can't get pressure on him and he can stand back there and he can read this defense and pick them apart. Let him have a day. Let him have another 4+ touchdown day. I would love to see it. Jacksonville might be coming in with a little momentum since they beat the Patriots 32-16, but I still think this is a pretty banged up team. They're lacking a lot of components. They do have some weapons, right? Trevor Lawrence, he can make some good throws. He was the number 1 overall pick. He's got a good contract from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was the number 1 pick for a reason. He makes his mistakes, no different than Jordan, but he can make some good throws. But they have a couple strong pass rushers. They have Evan Ingram, who can make you pay as a tight end, and then they have Christian Kirk, who got paid a lot of money as a receiver. I'm not super familiar. I don't watch a lot of Jacksonville Jaguar games. They just don't pop up for me a ton. So, but if I'm the Packers, I'm just letting Jordan pick them apart. I'm letting him, do his thing. Still focus on the run game. Still stay balanced, but focus there. Generate some turnovers. Get some pressures. This team allows sacks and they don't produce a lot of sacks, so it could make for a really good recipe for success for the Packers. So, that's probably a little bit quicker than I normally do, but we're kind of trailing a little bit behind. I know we spent a lot of time kind of recapping the game. So, Jenny, I appreciate you. Jenny says this show is my Tuesday ritual now. Nice work, Green Bay guys. See you next week. Don't leave before the story, Jenny. We always got the story, but I appreciate you always swinging in and all the support you give me on my page. Same with so many people. I've seen so many people, coming in week and week out. Heather's another one. Mark, of course. Corey's in here every week. So a lot of, and then Ron, the Tullys, of course. Jordan, I've seen you a bunch of times. Sway Coda. A lot of people I'm seeing in and out every week, and I really appreciate that. I know I miss more. I know, let's see, trying to think. Well, I know Corey, and I know you guys are just like lingering in the background. Corey and Bailey lingering in the background. So I know you guys are here every week, so I appreciate you. But let's talk about this story. So today I bought this fake cobweb. I was gonna put all of my wall backdrop here, and I put it up and it looked terribly, so I took it down. I was gonna get it really spooky, right? Really, really festive for the Halloween season. but it looked terrible, so I threw it away. But I did want to make today's story a little bit more of an eerie one for the Halloween vibes. And today's one is just that. It's a little bit shorter of a story, but it's a good one. And I'm sure it's one that a lot of people know. In 1974, the Green Bay Packers drafted the worst player in franchise history in the 17th round. And I don't mean worst player as in from a football standpoint. I mean from a human being standpoint. Although he wasn't a good football player either. He was pretty bad at that. But this player that they selected, this wide receiver, Randy Woodfield out of Portland State, Randy ended up becoming more well-known for things he did off the football field rather than on the football field. Randy is better known as the I-5 killer, and he was convicted of one murder, linked to 18 others, and suspected to be involved in 44 more beyond that. He is currently serving life in prison plus an additional 99 years, which is obviously a very fitting place for him. Pretty interesting that in the history of the Packers that they drafted a serial killer at one point in time. Obviously, you never want to make that draft pick, but when people bring up Tony Mandrich, just maybe remind them of Randy Woodfield. Randy Woodfield should be in more people's conversations as the worst pick in Packers history. Now I know people harp on Tony for different reasons, but just remind them at least Tony Mandrich isn't killing people. So, yeah, Heather, it is an interesting story. There's a lot of podcasts on it, a lot of articles that have been talked about it. Obviously, it's not something that I can't imagine that the Packers are proud that they drafted him by any means, nor would anyone be proud to be associated with that. But it is pretty interesting. Ben, I-5's 20 minutes from my house. Well, that story hits even closer. Yeah, Mark, you've heard me go on that rant before about Tony being the best pick because of all that happened from it. So maybe I'll go on that rant on another day. So, but that's going to do it for another episode. Oh, Corey, dude, I'm sorry. I gave shout outs to all these people that I'm seeing week in and week out. I forgot Corey in New Ulm, Minnesota. So Corey, my apologies, man. Appreciate you swinging in all the time. Joe, good to see you too, man. I think I saw you standing in the line at Jerry Kramer. But with my little man, it's a little harder to navigate. But one of these times I'm going to bump into you so I can actually introduce myself to you in person. So thank you guys all for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here for another week. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Ben, I'm going to shoot you an email probably tomorrow to get your address, and I'll get that package out to you guys. And yeah, have a good rest of your week. I'll see you guys on Facebook and wherever you follow me, and go Pack Go. Hope we're celebrating another Victory Monday next week, Victory Tuesday next week. So go Pack Go, and see you next week. Same time, same place.